I kick ass for the Lord.
What about me?
I never loved him the way that I love you. Just drops the mic.
Bit me with his butt.
Can't see it from here.
What about the panty?
What about the panty? What's up, Butters? And I faked you all out with that fake intro. See what I did there? Not enough bit me with his butt. I apologize. I think we need to just have that playing over and over and over again. Just a remix with Steven and Joseph. He bit me with his butt. And then, what about me? I would love to see that. Hope you are all having a great afternoon. Great evening. Oh, no. Cody's lagging. Rip. That's not good. That's not a good thing. That's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out in post, whatever that means. I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest in. But for all of you, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you into 52/1993, where we talk about movies from the year 1993. We watch 52 of them to be exact, and that's why we're named the way that we are named. I'm welcoming in my good buddy Steven in here. He's muted. He's playing guitar right now. He's always got something going on. He's always got something. You got to unmute yourself, my friend. But again, I just want to tell everybody that what we do is we just watch 52 movies, and then each week we talk about those movies. Some of them we've seen, some of them we haven't. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. So that's what we do. We just talk about those things. So. And Steven, you might need to turn your volume on the phone down. I don't want to hear myself.
You don't want to hear yourself?
Get in here. No,
I'm in here.
Get in
What
here.
do I need to do?
Nothing. I just wanted to say hello and welcome you.
Hello.
You're doing
Hello,
great.
friend.
Hello, my friend. And
Hello,
I guess
my
we can go ahead
friend.
and introduce today's movie. It's a movie that I don't think either one of us have seen. I know I haven't. I'm pretty sure he hasn't either. But that movie is Menace to Society, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that movie. You've not seen this, right?
Never seen it.
Never seen it. Okay, good. Then we have a lot to talk about. All right. Well,
Yes.
Menace to Society was released on May 26th, 1993. It was directed by the Hughes brothers, Alan and Albert, and it was written by Tiger Williams. Awesome name, because it's spelled Tyger. I don't know why. That's awesome. I listed out only four, I think, of the most important characters in this. So it stars Tyrone Turner as Kane Lawson, Jada Pinkett as Ronnie, Lorenz Tate as O-Dog, Vontae Sweet as Sharif Butler. I've got some other characters listed here, or actors listed here. Bill Duke is in here. I think he is the detective that arrests him. Charles Dutton plays Mr. Butler, which is Sharif's father. Samuel L. Jackson in a brief 5-minute role is Kane's father in this. And then Arnold Johnson is Kane's grandfather. He was a famous actor too, especially in the late 60s, early 70s. Arnold Johnson worked with Robert Downey Sr. on probably Robert Downey Sr.'s most famous movie, which is called Putney Swope. I have not seen that, but it is on my list. Let me give you a quick synopsis of this before we start talking. After growing up in the gang lifestyle of the Los Angeles projects, 18-year-old Kane Lawson wants a way out. Everyone around him, including his unpredictable friend O-Dog, that is, to say the least, is trapped in their lives of crime and violence. With the help of his caring teacher and supportive girlfriend, Kane plans to leave the city for good, but in a series of tragic events, Kane realizes that escape will not be easy. This movie had a budget of $3.5 million. It brought in a box office total of $29.5 million. It's got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 84% and an IMDb score of 7.5 out of 10. It was awarded the best movie for the 1994 MTV Movie Awards. and it only lost out to a movie that we already talked about, El Mariachi, at the Independent Spirit Awards for Best First Feature. It won the Best Cinematography at the Spirit Awards. And just a couple reviews before I let Steven start talking.
Give us other people's reviews.
Yeah,
I'm
and then
ready.
we'll give our own, which are way more important.
Oh,
If
yeah,
Menace to Society shows things the way they often are, and I believe it does, then the film is not negative for depicting them truthfully. Anyone who views this film thoughtfully must ask why our society makes guns easier to obtain and use than does any other country in the civilized world. And that is only the most obvious of many questions the film inspires. Roger Ebert firing on all cylinders in 1993, folks, for something that feels very topical today. He gave it 4 out of 4 stars. I don't think we've had a movie from him yet, or a review from him yet, that has given a perfect 4 out of 4. So this is our first one in that sense. And then that's our positive review. Negative review, we have If Menace to Society is terrific on ambiance, it is considerably less successful in revealing character. And that's Stephen Holden. He gave it 2.5 stars out of 5 for the New York Times. So, with all that being said in a very short amount of time, Stephen, what did you think?
I thought another review or something that was said about the movie that I thought was pretty interesting. As Alan Hughes said at the Cannes Fest, if you hate blacks, this movie will make you hate them more. I thought that was quite the
that
thing to
rings
say
true
about
from
your own movie.
Yeah. In fact, Roger Ebert said something very similar. His, I do recommend, if you have seen this movie and you want to read Ebert's review of it, do go read that, because he says the exact same thing. He's like, this movie isn't pulling punches. It's not, I think he even says, if you hate black people, this movie's not going to make you love them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Which I thought
So,
the two things being said says a lot about the movie, and then the more that I thought about it after I watched it, I mean, I really thought it was, like the main word that comes to mind is intense. Just from like even before there's any actors on screen and there's just dialogue, like it grabs you from the get-go with like the intensity of it. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was kind of a hard watch for sure. Like, I think anybody that watches this and it's an easy watch has probably had a much more difficult life than mine, if this is an easy watch for you. So
I can't agree with you more. It starts out very intense and does not let up for the rest of the movie. And I feel like
yes.
at times I as I was watching, I was like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And then it happens, and then I'm like, oh man, like I just kept like hoping for some other choices to be made with that. And
Yeah, what do you think? Or just overall, do you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. I was talking to somebody else about this, and I kept bringing up Boys in the Hood, and Boys in the Hood came out the year prior to this, and it came out during when the writers of this, with the writers and directors were developing this movie, the Hughes and the Hughes brothers and the Tiger Williams. They were developing this, and they thought, oh crap, like, they just did our movie. How can we even do this movie? And then when they watched Boys in the Hood, they were like, oh, their movie's about getting out. Our movie is not. It is about, that's there, but it's not as easy to get as some would think.
And I even read that whether it was New Line Cinema or just their lack of time, their lack of experience, that they wanted it to be even edgier. like that they were somewhat disappointed in the aftermath, because they wanted it to be even rougher. And we can talk about some of the things I read that maybe got taken out um, of the movie, that either New Line or somebody along the way was like, whoa, too much. And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that they took that approach. And that's the only reason I mentioned the what I saw from Ebert, or from even from Alan Hughes, is because I think I have a lot of respect for them, making as realistic as we see in the chat here, like trying to make, instead of giving this movie-esque uh let's escape from the hood um kind of storyline. It's more, I don't know if you felt, and not to ruin it at all, but like I never I never felt any hope at all. Like I felt that he was good, like he was toying with the idea of, this and that, but like I just felt like there wasn't gonna be a happy
It never
ending.
yeah, it never felt like Kane really wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And in contrast to the Boys in the Hood, like Boys in the Hood, you have Cuba Gooding Jr. and like his parents want a life better for him. And this, we don't even like. We get set up early on in this as like, and I'll go ahead and read it. We'll go through some of this stuff, but Kane says, growing up with parents like that, I heard a lot and I saw a lot. I caught on to the criminal life real quick. Instead of keeping me out of trouble, they turned me on to it. And I think with that statement, this tells you this is not Boys in the Hood 2. This is,
Yeah.
we are our own thing. This is Menace to Society. So there's a big contrast there. And, some people, I think somebody in the chat said realism is greater than hope. For me, I think this is a really good and successful movie in what it set out to do. But for me, like, I think I was craving, like there were times where I was desperate. I was thirsty for some
Mhm.
kind of hope instead of
Or
just
even like
getting,
some
just
comic
getting hit
relief.
over and over again.
Yeah, some comic
Yeah,
relief.
like some of
I
these
mean,
lines are funny, but they get really like serious really quick. So it's not a
yeah,
lot of
I mean, if
comic
you talk
relief
about the
either.
very opening of the movie, I feel like even before we get the Menace to Society, we have the whole um convenience store scene, right? And at the end of that scene, I wrote that down as one of my favorite quotes. Went into the store just to get a beer, came out an accessory to murder and armed robbery. It's funny like that in the hood sometimes. You never knew what was going to happen or when. After that, I knew it was going to be a long summer. Uh, yeah, and that scene alone with the not only like him shooting the store clerk, yeah, O Dog. We get introduced to O Dog, Kane's buddy, and he's clearly the psychopath. They say something in the movie about him being one of the craziest dudes that they knew, and we get that from the very get go. I feel like even before the title, and you establish that like maybe Kane is a little bit more chill for the people he's around, but also I don't know that I saw that hope throughout myself. So it was more of like,
Yeah,
how do
that
we
says
dodge this for the rest of the movie?
yeah. Now the quote is now O Dog was the craziest guy alive, America's nightmare, young, black, and didn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
and
yeah
established from first scene,
you
right? Like the way he robs the dude after he shoots him and like kicks the body. Uh, that's that's a lot, man. And then dragging her to the back, dragging the lady off to the back and shooting her too. Like it's like, whoa, my wife came out from the other room and was like, what are you watching? Just hearing that lady scream and the way he was talking to her. So O-Dog from first scene gets established, does not give a fuck. Kane's more like, oops, I didn't mean to get into this situation, but let's see where it goes.
But and one of the things I'll say again with this movie, and Kane in particular, is like he was shocked that it happened, but it didn't feel like remorseful as you would get in other movies where you have the guy that didn't commit the murder be like, man, that was really messed up. That was I never felt that was the case of Kane at all. It was just, nope, I'm just here, and these are my guys, so this is it. Like, I don't feel bad for what happened. It
And
happens.
before we leave this scene, I was curious, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe the chat can get me if I'm wrong too. But this is, I think, the first time we ever get a "What'd you say about my mama?" Like
Oh
this
yeah, he said,
is,
I feel sorry for your mother.
yeah. The convenience store clerk says, "Yeah, I feel sorry for your mother," which apparently the original line was like, "You ghetto bastard" or something like that. And they wanted the
Yeah.
Hughes brothers thought that was too directly racist, and they thought, like most racism is really subtle and indirect, so they changed it to I feel sorry for your mother. And we get the "What'd you say about my mama?" which I've heard my entire life, didn't have any idea it came from this movie. There's another movie where they make fun of this.
Mm-hmm.
The Wayans brothers, and one of
Yeah.
them's got the hair,
What
and I'm not
was
sure
it?
what
Don't
movie
be a
that is.
menace in South Central.
That's it. I'm pretty sure.
It's got a longer title, but yeah, that's it.
They kind of mock this scene in that movie, and I maybe thought it was from that. Yeah, Don't Be a Menace. And I had no idea it's originally from this. What'd you say about my mama?
So we get this establishing scene, and I think obviously it sets up the rest of the movie for what you're about to get, because like I said, doesn't pull any punches, and then we get this and the reason I don't know if people can ever see what I'm playing in the background, but I've got Goodfellas playing in the background, and this movie is heavily influenced by Goodfellas. Um, it has the narration, it has the violence, the gang life in that. But we get an early scene where we learn about Kane's parents. This is where we get Samuel L. Jackson in here. That line about like, instead of them keeping me out of trouble, they turned me on to it. So we get, you know, Kane's dad is a bad dude. Their mom's a crackhead. Um, and that's just kind of normal to him. And then we get that poker table scene. I think is a really, really important, really important scene too, to show like the numbness that Kane has towards violence.
Yeah,
Because
Scene
Samuel L.
one and two are basically establishing this dude just sees people getting dropped all the time. Since he was a kid, it's just been, people getting shot is normal. It's just normal. He even says something like, "That
Yeah,
was the first time I saw my dad kill somebody, but it wouldn't be the last."
yeah,
And
it's
it's
just
like, holy
insane.
crap.
I,
Yeah.
so Kane's dad's a bad dude, and I think he ends up getting killed. We don't see that, of course. It's just like, moving
I mean,
on.
does
Here's my
Samuel L.
life.
ever
But
play a
that
good? Samuel L. doesn't ever play a nice guy, right? He doesn't ever play a good guy.
he's Nick Fury
Oh, that's true.
in the
I'm wrong.
Marvel franchise.
I
He is
take
a
it
good
back. I
guy.
take it back.
And Snakes on a Plane. This
Uh,
guy was Shaft, man.
oh man, I'm getting so corrected.
No, he usually does play a bad guy because he's always in all of Quentin Tarantino's movies. But even in those movies, he's like a bad guy, but not a bad guy. This guy, Tat
Plays the
Lawson,
middle
is a
ground.
bad dude.
Cody effed him up.
So we get that. We have that poker table scene where Tat just shoots a guy who owes him money, And then I think one
I
of the
mean, he
funnier
got
lines in
out
this
of
movie, and I
prison.
think
Give him a break, right?
yeah, but he's
Like,
owed
how you?
money.
I mean, I guess that is one of my favorite. Like, sadly, from this movie, from one of my favorite quotes is when he's like, "Suck my dick," and he shoots him. What's some that's some serious last words right there.
Yeah. And then the guy sitting at the poker table with Tat was like, uh, was shocked that he shot him for that. And then Tat goes, "Well, do you owe me some money, motherfucker?" And then that guy just tosses him some money. He's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Hell no, but here you go. Don't
You can
shoot
have what
me."
I got.
After we get this kind of setup of the parents and everything, and we get this next scene where O-Dog, who stole the security footage from the convenience store, this is important to the story. We get that he's flaunting that security footage out. He's showing his friends. I can't remember. I know Harold, who is Kane's cousin, is there, and gosh, I can't even think of what the other guy's name is. Who we get? Chauncey. Chauncey is there,
Chauncey,
and
yeah,
he's loving it.
Chauncey.
He there, yeah. Chauncey becomes important later on. Um, but they're flaunting that security again. Don't give a. They just don't care. They don't
Care.
care that they just murdered somebody. They don't care that the cops are out there looking for them. They just don't care.
Not worried about it.
And then after this scene, where they're just all hanging around, Kane and Harold, again, Harold is Kane's cousin, get carjacked. Harold is killed, seriously killed, and then Kane is pretty wounded.
Get shot in the
And
shoulder.
so, I mean, yeah, and the blood, like, we get it really early. I mean, we get it early on, and when Kane's dad shoots that guy, but there is so much blood, like, and it feels real, like.
I think this for me was one of my um least favorite scenes. I just felt like it was overacted a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me. I've never been shot. I don't know what it feels like. I don't want to know what it feels like. Uh, dear universe, please. I don't want to be shot. But I just felt like it was overacted a lot. It was like being shot. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Kane really in this movie at every opportunity just takes the most ground on like drooling as much as possible. Doing that. And I know he's losing lots of blood and all, but it was a little much. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think he would be tougher. 50 if 50 Cent can take 9 shots, Kane can take one. To the shoulder.
And he did, and it didn't feel like there was a lot of love. Like,
You're a
obviously they
little
were
much,
mad.
Spencer.
They're it. They're sorry, trying to keep up with the chat and seeing everything. Um, no, it doesn't seem like, even though somebody did get shot, somebody close to them, there's no grieving period. The grieving period for them
Mm,
is revenge,
mm,
and that's all that they think about. That hospital. I mean, we get Kane in the hospital, and like you said, a little bit of overacting here.
mm.
But their first goal, the only thing they think about is, all right, we got to get those guys. So it's just
When
a
they
back
like,
and forth. The whole
yeah, they figure out. I feel like Ronnie comes to visit, to make sure he's all right, and then there's a brief moment of like, Ronnie and Kane, but like next scene, they're talking about, hey, I know where they're at. We're going to go get them. Kane's like, absolutely, boom. And, next thing we know, they're pulling up on these guys that killed his cousin. Which I thought, man, that scene was like the scene with Harold getting shot in the head was brutal. Like Harold's like, I ain't going
mm-hmm.
out like no bitch, and boom, they just shoot him right in the head. And so it's a tough, it's a tough answer, question to answer. Is like, somebody shoots your cousin and you. how do you respond? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as the chat says, violence breeds violence. So yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough for these guys because as they're going along, they're making enemies and pissing people off, but also trying to defend their people and stuff like that. It's a tough world.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I'll talk about real quick is that the Hughes brothers did not want to. One, they probably didn't want to upset anybody. But you'll notice there's no like colors in this. There's no like Crips. There's no Bloods. It's they never mention any like what our gang is called or anything like that. Which I thought was pretty interesting, but obviously, for good reason, especially at this time in the in America in the early '90s with like gang violence and everything.
Well, I read
But
that they even had to stop filming one day because of a shooting close by. So I think that was probably pretty smart of them because even just like filming and pretending to be like a part of those gangs and stuff could have been big
mm-hmm.
problems for them. So I think that was not only like a intellectual choice, but a really good we got to film this
Yeah.
somewhere and not get shot at choice.
So yeah, I think this is also the first time Kane has narration over this when he kills when they track down the carjackers, they kill him. I think this is the first guy that Kane has ever killed. And again, we're just going down that path. Like you see the beginning of Kane's path with O-Dog and everything, and then you just see that slow trickle down to
Well, this is one of
where
my
he's
favorites
headed.
too because I don't know if you noticed, but it stood out to me that when they pull up on him and his cousin and kill Harold, they say like brace yourself, fool, or something like that. They say the same thing when they pull up on them.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't even
so it's
catch
like
it.
they use their own language on them. Break yourself, excuse me. Uh but yeah, I thought that was like an extra stab. It's like right before I kill you, I'm gonna use your own language at you. But it may have been like I don't know that
Yeah.
may just be break yourself may just be common language, but I thought that was an extra stab.
All I knew it as was something that McLovin said in Superbad.
I'm not familiar. I have not heard that phrase many times directed at me.
No, definitely, and I don't think I want to.
Apparently not.
And so after I think we get after this scene and after we've established like Kane's a killer now, and um, we've had all
Man, can I
that.
just
Kane and
throw
O
out?
Dog,
Can we just stop for a second and let me admit that for my
yeah.
entire life, I thought it was brace yourself, fool, and I am learning today that is break yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth, man. Well, I
That's the truth. Break
what
yourself. Break
that
yourself.
it's brace yourself sounds makes so much more sense. But all right,
I mean, brace yourself. Yeah, I don't know.
brace yourself. Yeah, break. Yeah, I guess this whole
Break
time
break yourself sounds cooler to me.
yeah, break yourself. Yeah, now I know. There's even a song.
Yeah.
I'm gosh, I am so white.
That's okay. I think it's okay.
Land shark.
Um,
I'm super white.
you could have lied and told everybody it was Corona.
That's true. That's true.
Um, yeah, and then the next scene we get with Kane and O-Dog is that they get caught trying to steal a car. And this is
Mm.
when the police, we get a police scene. The police interrogate them.
We got to
They
talk
match
about why
Kane's
there's.
prints to.
We got to talk about why they're stealing the car, right? What, like speaking of
Well,
white,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, the white guy,
Oh yeah.
the white guy that's at Chauncey's house, and this is one of my favorite interactions. Is when the guy's like, Chauncey comes out and Chauncey's like, "Why are you here so early?" And the guy's like, "You said be here at 11." And he's like, "I don't care what I said." Yeah, but they're stealing this car for this nerdy white guy, apparently, like, facilitating some insurance fraud of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Seemed a little out there.
Yeah, definitely an
But yeah,
odd scene, but I enjoyed the white guy trying to and Chauncey's like, "Yeah, come back tomorrow at 10." And he's like, "PM?" And the guy and Chauncey's then like, you don't want to come to this neighborhood at night."
yeah.
I
Oh my
I
gosh.
enjoyed that scene a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, the police get him. They match Kane's prints to the broken beer bottle from the convenience store. And the guy, the cop that's interrogating him, is trying to trip him up, get him to not know what time it was that he was. He's trying to mess up his story, but in out of Kane's narration, he's like, they can't do anything to me, so they're gonna have to let me go, which they ultimately do. Um, and I feel like the police are after them the whole time, but I never get that sense of urgency from anybody like Kane or O-Dog. I never feel like the police are a threat to them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're
Or they're
laying low
worried
at all.
about it. Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, I mean, somebody in chat said, could they match prints that well in 93? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they could. I mean, fingerprints were I mean, we've been fingerprinting for probably a century at that point. Or maybe not a
That's true.
century, but we've been doing it for quite a while at that point. I think they could match the prints pretty well. The error of this is why couldn't they match O-Dog's prints? Because he had his hands on everything in that store, the cash register,
Oh,
the
but they
counter,
did, but
all that
they
stuff.
let him
So
off of the warning because he was a minor. No, that was the other thing. You're right, man. That's a good
yeah,
point.
that was another thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
you're
little
right.
hole in the story. Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if this is out of order or anything, but we get introduced to Mr. Butler, which is Sharif's father. Sharif is the part of the gang that's he's Nation of Islam and doesn't seem to want to participate in any of the things that they're up to. But these are all my friends, so like I still hang out with them and everything. We go to high school together, we graduate high school together, all that stuff. But we get introduced to Mr. Butler, and Mr. Butler has a good quote here. He says, "Being a black man in America isn't easy. The hunt is on, and you're the prey. All I'm saying is survive. All right." Which I think is another instance in this movie where we get somebody that's like trying to like grab Kane by the shoulders and shake him and be like, "You need to do this." Because if not, you're gonna die. And I mean,
Yeah,
he gets it from his grandfather.
I'll confess this was the one scene in this movie that got me a little teared up because hit a little like with the work that I do. Definitely rang true for a lot of the young men that I work with, where it feels like there's a system at work kind of working against them. And I a lot of times tell them very similar things, that you got to know where you are and who you're surrounded by, because I a lot of times call it a mouse traps. But the way that this is phrased in this movie is very, very intense and very real for a lot of young men in America. So it got me a little teared up for sure. What's that guy's
So
name?
I ask you, Mr. Butler,
No, but
who's
the
Sharif's dad. We
actor.
don't get a first name. Oh,
Um,
his name
he's been in
is
a
Charles
ton of
Dutton.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he every time I see that guy in anything, which I think I looked through his IMDb, he's just been in a ton of stuff, but I found exactly what I was looking for. Um, Caught some ash in my eye. Come on, Spencer. Um, he was in the like one of the scariest episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I like every time I see him in any movie, I'm like, man, that dude was creepy. And Are You Afraid of the Dark? he's got
Well,
like
he's trying to save
one
a life in this
eye
one.
missing, or like maybe he's wearing a patch or something. But yeah, deep pool, absolutely. Are You Afraid of the Dark? I wish I had written down the name of the character, because man, everybody go look up, what's his name again, Cody?
Charles Dutton.
Charles Dutton. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Top tier, scary for kids. Charles
So,
Dutton.
real quick, Steven, just talking about kind of what you do and everything. What age group do you deal with mostly?
Um, Youngest age that I've worked with is 12, and oldest is 19. There are a few kids that stay under the government's. Man, can I put this in the chat? Or can you put pictures in the chat? Is that
I
allowed?
don't think you can put pictures in the chat.
Oh
Did
my
you find the
God.
Captain
I
Cutter?
found Captain Jonas Cutter. Everybody Google. I'm gonna put it in the chat so that nobody forgets. There we go. All right.
Looking
But
up some
yeah.
Captain
I
Jonas
work
Cutter.
with 12 through 19-year-olds that are transitioning from juvenile detention back to home. Uh, and not to, not to get into it too much, but a lot of my young men that I'm working with, even currently, the majority, 90%, I'd say, have gun charges. And so it this movie was very, very almost like an insight to what I've missed growing up myself, and where I've known some of these young men that I've worked with in the last couple of years that have been who've basically lived out similar stories to this movie, where mom, dad didn't show a lot of love, in fact showed a lot of negative behaviors that led to a lot of negative behaviors as a young child into young adulthood. And that's where they meet me, and um I try to help. And I think that's where I fall into the role of Mr. Butler here a lot of times, is that I'm just trying to be the encourager that says you can escape this if you can get out of here. But I've worked with several young men.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the military, where I thought the military was one of the best options for some of my young men. So this definitely hit home in a special way. So uh
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and
yeah.
I don't want to get obviously I don't want to get crazy political on a movie podcast or anything like that. But I do feel like we're mostly all in agreement about this. But somebody in chat says it's gun charges if you're black, if you're white, it's your Second Amendment right, kind of thing. But one thing I'll point out, and Steven knows this, and a lot of us all know this, is it's a very cyclical life. Like the people, it's hard for people to break that cycle. You see it, you see it for black people, you see it for poor white people too. Like the reason they do the things they do is because they learned them from their parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents' parents, and it's extremely difficult to get out of that. And so like, whereas we get a movie like Boys in the Hood where they do get out, kind of thing, and even those people get out in that movie. It's I'd love to see statistics on something like that. Obviously, it's not something that you could probably. It's not probably something that you can quantify by any means, because saying like what is getting out mean can
Yeah.
mean different things to different people, but just the
Well, I think
difficulty.
that
I mean, it's
this
stacked against them.
movie, yeah, this movie really draws, and there's some other conversations going on in the chat that I don't want to skip too far ahead either. But like, when you think about, with our experience, and I would say throughout the chat, you and I both, like almost none of us can relate to being a teenager and feeling like you had to have a weapon on you to protect yourself, like at all
Mm-mm.
times. And so that feeling alone, that I have a hard time comprehending, just creates an environment, right? Where it's like, if a lot of people have guns because they don't feel safe um, then people are going to draw those guns and shoot them like the Wild West. You know, like if they've got them
Mhm.
on them, they're going to shoot them. And unfortunately, uh, that's what happens. And when you think about, okay, if I'm going to escape this, should I go to Atlanta or should I go to Kansas? Um,
Mhm.
the choice seems pretty clear, just because how do you draw that line of what is escaping this? Not to say, I mean, I'm sure there's a some scary neighborhoods and high crime areas in Kansas that I don't know about.
Yeah.
But
A little bit
there,
of me thinks that them riding Kansas though is their, view, might be their view of like what could go wrong in Kansas.
yeah,
Um like it's the
man,
middle of nowhere.
great point in the chat though. It turns into a completely another form of danger.
Right.
uh
And
which
and
is
I do
like,
agree
man,
with
there's no
that.
winning.
Obviously.
Like that's exactly what you're saying though, is like, how do you escape this garbage of like
Mhm.
either growing up in an environment where I have to have a gun to protect myself, or going to a place where everybody treats me like I'm not good enough because of the color of my skin. I mean, like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the kind of movie that, like, as you watch as a white person, not having to deal with any of this stuff growing up in any kind of fashion, it's like, wow, what an opportunity! Like, the white privilege becomes pretty clear. So yeah, ask Dorothy,
Yeah.
as the chat says.
Um we'll move on with
Yeah,
this.
but
I'm
this
sure we'll
whole
get a
time we
little bit
got
more
Ronnie. You know,
into
like,
this.
I know you had said earlier, there was needs a need for hope. There was a need for some relief, and to me, Ronnie is that. Pinkett Smith is that, of like, he's looking after his buddy Purnell's baby mama and her kid Anthony, and she wants him to get out. He's got buddies that want him to get out. So there is this like element of hope where he's got options.
Yeah. Yeah, and but before we get to them going to Kansas or them going to Atlanta, there's some Kane gets into more trouble than what it's probably worth. Also, I don't know where this scene falls in, but I wanted to bring it up because I just feel like the intensity of this scene and almost how it's kind of played off as a laugh at the end of it, where Odog shoots the base head, the guy that's asking him for money and says, "I'll suck your dick," and all this stuff. Like, just how like it's that is a violent, just out of nowhere scene, and then it
And
ends
the
with him offering the friends the hamburgers that the guy had on him.
It just shows that
It's
he's a
just the
psychopath. Like, it to shoot somebody that everybody's familiar with. He's been around what AWACS multiple times, kind of acting a very similar way, and like, to shoot him in the middle of the day in broad daylight, it just shows, yeah, Odog is the craziest of them all.
I do want to point out that the writer of this also said that Odog was written as the youngest of them. So everybody else is 17, 18, getting out of high school. Odog's still in high. He's 15 years old. And
And
he's the one that acts like
they also looked for like a big dude with like facial scars, and they just couldn't find the person that fit. And uh I guess the Hughes brothers asked for the audition tapes of the people that they didn't accept, and like one of the first ones they watched was his, and they like almost rewrote the character for him. Just a little
yeah.
badass who's not afraid of anything, like, who's is not
Mhm.
scared to shoot anybody.
Yeah, daylight. And again, we see them shoot. Odog shoots this guy, random guy, middle of the day, and the friends that he's with, like, there's not big concern over are the police coming, because the police aren't coming. They don't care, and They only care when it's convenient for them, I guess.
He shoots him and says, "Suck on that, you bitch ass trick."
Oh yeah, jeez, it's
That was
that's a
a
rough scene.
standout
That was a
line
rough.
too. Yeah, like to shoot somebody and then like talk shit at their body is yeah, and then the burgers and then be like, "Hey, anybody want hamburgers?" and toss them to
Yeah,
the side. Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah.
We also, I don't know. This is another thing. Like, you can't have anything good in the neighborhoods that they're in either. It seems like because, Kane gets his new Mustang from the chop shop, and as soon as he gets it, he sees a guy roll up next to him that has gold rims, and he rolls up on that guy and carjacks him. Says, "I want your motherfucking Dayton's and your motherfucking stereo." He rolls up on. This is one of the kind of like funnier scenes to me in the movie, because he does it in the middle of a drive-through line, a fast food restaurant, and he says, "I'll take a
Little
double
tiny
burger
bit
with
of comic
cheese
relief.
too." Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's just like so surprised that this is happening. The fast food employee's like, "What's your order?" And this guy's struggling to get it out there. He's like, "A burger and some fries." And Kane goes, "Motherfucker, I said with cheese." And
Yep.
so we see this, and again, it's just more of like Kane doing the wrong thing and wanting what's right in front of him instead of what could be.
Well, and gotta mention like stereotypical black grandparents that are at home trying to like keep him out of trouble, asking him whether he wants to live or not, and you know, just it's unfortunately, kind of like the Bible wielding grandparents that unfortunately don't know how to get through to some of these young people. For sure, Bible thumping, exactly.
We get the scene where Kane hooks up with Elena,
Oh
which
yeah,
is an important part of kind of the ending of this movie. He meets her at a barbecue and just rolls up on her, and
blocks her in.
they get together. Locks
Yeah,
her in, gets it going. Hooks up with Elena. We also get a scene where Kane and Sharif are pulled over and beaten by cops, and then they're dropped in a Hispanic neighborhood. So, and the cops did this so that the rival gang, a Hispanic gang, will roll up on these guys and do the rest of the work for them, so that the cops wouldn't be held responsible. Luckily, they say that these guys were forgiving and took them to a hospital, because they
yeah.
have
I
probably
like
seen
the
that kind of
quote
thing
here.
before.
Yeah, where at the essays were cool. They took us to the hospital.
The essays were great, very brief in this. It was we don't. That's the only other kind of neighborhood we see like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. There's another scene. There's a party scene. I'm not trying to rush us or anything, but I'm just kind of going through the rest of the scenes
Yeah.
that I had written down. They're having a party. I don't know who's. I think it's at Ronnie's house maybe. And Chauncey, who we'd previously seen, with the
Ronnie, it's a
the
going
tape
away
and
party.
everything.
It's a going away
Oh,
party
it is.
for
It's a
Ronnie
going away
because
party
Ronnie's
for
going to
Ronnie.
Atlanta and Chauncey's trying to
That's
push
right.
up. Yeah.
And then Chauncey gets a little bit aggressive with Ronnie, and then Kane beats the shit out of him. And that's probably
Pistol
not the
whip.
best move since Chauncey held the pistol whipped him. God, the violence in this is pretty hardcore. Like, I've just
Yeah,
got
like I
done
mean,
watching a lot of Tarantino films, and the violence in this just feels a lot worse than those movies. It's
yeah,
almost
I mean,
comical in
it,
Tarantino
it,
films.
it's just mentioned in the chat that this scene we blew by it, but man, this police brutality that we get of them like handcuffing them, beating the shit out of them, throwing them in the car, and then beating the shit out of them more, and then dropping them off in the neighborhood like that. Like I agree. This was one of the most like unsettling parts of the movie. So to blow by that, and then you know, I agree that like following that, having Chauncey like be really inappropriate with Ronnie, and and Kane stepping in and just kind of nonsensically, he could have beat him. He just could have probably just beat him up, but instead he asked for like O-Dog's pistol, right? And goes over there and just like pops him over the head and just keeps popping him, and it's like, okay, this is getting crazier and crazier, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot all at once. Yeah,
It
I mean,
and it, out of
excuse me that I'm getting corrected by the chat. Yeah, definitely
chat needs to
way
calm
more
down, if
than
we're being honest.
inappropriate. Yeah, true. Inappropriate is an understatement. Agreed. Way over the line. Way over the line. Grabbing ass, touching up on her, and stuff like that. So, um, definitely agree.
Out of retaliation for this, Chauncey sends the surveillance tape into the cops. Um, so that's something that they have to put up with now. So they have the cops looking out for them now because Chauncey sent that surveillance tape in. So they're looking for not only O-Dog, but they're looking for Kane as well during this.
Hmm.
Elena calls up Kane and tells her that she's pregnant. Kane pretty much ignores that, and
I mean, he's a real
at one
dick
point he
about
gets
it.
super dick.
I mean,
But
just like,
there are some other things I'll pick up on here in a second
yeah.
with that, because like there's a story. So in the original script, it is Elena isn't actually pregnant and is actually simply lying to get money out of Kane. That's according to the Hughes brothers. They mistakenly let the actress who plays Elena get a little carried away and cry in the scene where she talks to Kane on the phone, which led a lot of people to believe that she was actually pregnant. But in the story, she's not pregnant, and she's really just trying to get some money out of him, which
Mm.
gives you a little bit of a different, point of view on that. But Kane ignoring her, it just again, this is
His
another
response
time
is
where I'm just
brutal, man.
yeah.
Why are you telling me about
So
this? Yeah, it's brutal.
yeah, and she's like, "You're the only one I've ever been with," and he's just like, "Whatever, I'm going to sleep." And then the next thing we know, her cousin approaches Kane and is like, "Hey, you got to support this baby." And Kane's like, "The hell I will," and then just stomps the shit out of that guy. It's a rough
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, I this guy makes a very poor decision. I mean, like he does what I expected Kane to do to Chauncey. Like he steps to him like a big boy and says, "Hey, what's up?" and wants to fight about it. But yeah, I feel like Kane in the middle of a sentence just like hits him and then beats the tar out of him.
So Kane's on one, man. He's beat up the cousin. He's beat up Chauncey.
He's been in
He's
now.
on
He's
one, and
getting
I
the
think,
tapes out of him in this shooting. I mean, he's made a lot of enemies. He stole the rims.
yeah,
Like that guy could
stole
be
the
looking for
rims.
revenge. Yeah, he's a dick,
All the
man.
y- yeah, and I don't really know where the timeline of this happens, but like they visit Purnell in prison, him and Ronnie, and I think that uh, I don't. It wouldn't make sense for him to go to a prison to visit somebody if he's on the lam from the cops. But again, I don't know. I've never been chased by the cops or anything like that. And at this point, Purnell's like, you need to go with Ronnie to Atlanta, take care of my son, teach him the things that we don't want to, like teach him how to not be like you or me. And that was a really good scene to me, in my opinion. I really liked that, just another person trying to get through to Kane, whether it's Sharif's dad or Purnell or Ronnie or his grandpa, all of them just trying to hammer it home,
Fun
and it
fact:
still does not feel like he really gets it. What's the fun fact?
New Line had them add this scene. uh, to make it more like heartfelt, to make it more emotional. This was not originally shot in
Yeah.
like the
Oh,
like
I mean,
they shot in like 33 days or something like that. They had to go back and add this scene because this is one of those things to not make it so edgy, you know,
yeah.
a little
Uh,
heartfelt.
Somebody in chat asked which scene. This is the scene where they go to prison to visit Purnell, and because Ronnie's leaving for Atlanta, and she just wanted Purnell to see her son for
Purnell
the last time.
acknowledges that he knows like there's something going on between Kane and Ronnie, and he's cool with it for some reason. He's cool. He's
Yeah,
like, yeah, it just passes her off. Yeah, I felt bad for Purnell too.
yeah. But I think Purnell saw the writing on the wall, kind of thing. He's like, I'm not getting out of here. I need my son. I need my girl, and I trust you. You're like, I mean, Purnell was basically like a father to him. He says that to him.
Hmm.
Um, and so Purnell's not getting out. And if he can offer any kind of hope to Kane, then that's what that's what he's telling him to do.
Yeah.
And then after that, we get the scene, the ending scene of this movie. And like I said, I skipped around a little bit, but I wanted to point out the big scenes. But Ronnie is leaving for Atlanta. She's taking Kane with him or with her. And then Elena's cousin comes back for vengeance and does a drive-by. And sadly, Sharif is killed immediately. And then Kane is fatally wounded, protecting Ronnie's son.
Man, I think he
And
was pretty lit
yeah,
up
and then we
even
get
before. He was lit up
yeah,
and was like, I'm gonna use my dead body to protect this kid.
yeah, just grabs that, grabs the son who's on that like big wheel or whatever. And at this point, we get the I think it's it might be the last line in the movie. My grandpa asked me one time if I care whether I live or die. Yeah, I do. Now it's too late, and that's kind of how this movie ends. So
Yep.
not only do we, I feel like we all knew Kane was going to end up not getting out, just with every wrong choice that he kept making, and the
I
every
gotta
time
bring
somebody
it up,
offered hope,
Cody.
it was kind of
We're
what is
seeing
it?
here if Anthony is the kid that's always riding the big wheel, Ronnie's son. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing that in the original screenplay, Anthony died at the end. And New Line came back
Oh,
and was like, no way, Jose. That's too much, too much, too much.
we kill everybody else in this movie. Got to keep the kid alive.
Yeah. I think the one thing that was like kind of laugh out loud funny to me is the way the big wheel broke on the sidewalk. Like when he dived over the kid at the end, the big wheel just like hits the sidewalk and breaks into pieces. And that made me laugh out loud. That was one of the funnier
Yeah.
parts of the movie.
Yeah, not a funny movie, a very serious movie, but yeah,
Yeah,
little things like that.
little things.
Other scenes or anything, other lines that you wanted to talk about? That's kind of where I ended on my notes. I know I missed some things. Somebody in chat talking about Anthony coming on the steps during the party, just like Katie.
Yeah, I liked that
Um,
because it's like even though it's not completely different and things are not getting way better, they like at least didn't let him take a sip of the 40, right?
yeah, at least it's like the worst.
Uh, yeah, I mean that's mostly what I had. Like there's some other good quotes. I thought killing those fools would make me feel good, but it really didn't make me feel anything. I just knew that I could kill somebody, and if I had to, I could do it again. That
Yeah,
quote was pretty
it's
chilling to me.
apathy.
Yeah.
This this gives a more apathetic view, and we see it on other people's faces, not just Kane's face. Like I said, Kane, you see it whenever the convenience store murder happens, When he kills those people, he doesn't really feel anything at all. When O-Dog kills those that random guy, the base head, like nobody cares. It's just like another day. They're not for it. They're not against it. It's just like we're living our lives. We're just trying to survive.
Yeah. Yeah, the cycle
Somebody in chat says
continues.
it's honestly more powerful that Anthony lives. The cycle continues. That's a good point. But hopefully Ronnie gets out, and goes to Atlanta, and she's got a job lined up there. So
And we
maybe
all
things
know how
can
Atlanta
change. Who
turns
knows?
out. So
Yeah. So if you have any other quotes or anything, feel free to unleash them on me. But I'll start on some fun facts. If you're
yeah,
ready.
start me with some fun facts. I got a few. I'm interested if you found them too.
Okay. Tupac was actually in this movie. He was originally cast to play Sharif, but was fired due to a physical fight with Alan Hughes, one of the co-directors. And Tupac was charged with assault and battery. He bragged about this altercation on Yo MTV Raps, and a tape of the appearance was played at the trial as evidence against Shakur, and Shakur was sentenced to 15 days in jail for it. So, new line. Mandated that a platinum rapper be cast in the film, and so MC8 was cast as AWAX. The scene where Kane visits Purnell in prison, you already said that. That was to add heart. MC Ren, perhaps most famous for being a member of NWA, was set to play the character of AWAX, but did not go through with it. I already said the word. Fuck was used in the movie 305 times during the course of the film. So I don't know what the record was in Goodfellas, but this one certainly gives it a run for its money. Tiger Williams wrote this in 28 days. They developed the story together with the Hughes brothers. This is one of my favorite fun facts, and I don't really know how fun it is, but 50%, half of the crack in this movie is real. And in the scene where Kane is seen cutting it with a razor blade, I think that the studio, New Line, came in and had them actually take steps out of what he was doing in that scene because it was too authentic, and people could have used that as kind of a step-by-step how-to guide. So
A tutorial.
yeah, a tutorial on how to make crack from cocaine. And the
Yeah.
studio had to step in and be like, let's get rid of that. Let's see here. I already told the thing about Boys in the Hood and how they felt like they thought they weren't going to be able to make the movie, but obviously went on to say it. Menace to Society was going to be nihilistic, and Boys in the Hood was hopeful, very much so.
Yeah.
This came out actually a couple days ago. I didn't know if you saw this in your research, but Eazy-E from NWA fame was originally supposed to play O-Dog. And I wondered about that too, because originally they said that O-Dog had a Jerry curl, and I was like, oh, Eazy-E had a Jerry curl. I wonder, and then I saw that in my research that I was doing earlier. Ice Cube turned down that role too, because he didn't want to be cast as typecast as an LA gangster. He says he regrets not taking that role, but Lorenz Tate did kill it in playing that character. Let's see here. There were a lot of things that were cut out for the theatrical cut. Most of those scenes were like the violent scenes, so they could make a rated R movie. So like the gunshot wounds when Kane's father shoots the man at the table, when AWAC shoots the man in the stomach. A lot of this stuff is just like the bullets leaving bodies. They didn't like that much. So those were the main ones that I drew out of my research. What do you got?
I think you hit them all. I thought it was crazy that Tupac was definitely a part of this movie at some point and couldn't get along enough and fought with the writer. I mean, that it's crazy to think about Tupac being in this movie. Like had they gotten along. So I really enjoyed that one. Um, I think you hit all of mine. Besides I mean MC8 ad libbed who is AWAX, the platinum
Mhm.
rapper. Just they just let him ad lib just so it would feel real. I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, man, yeah, there's just a lot of things that they cut so they could keep it away from NC-17, and then a few things that they added that gave it heart, which I think we're good moves because man, it was a heavy movie. It was definitely a heavy movie.
Somebody in chat just asked if it was filmed all in L.A. and it was. Different parts across L.A., but yeah, majority of it was all filmed in L.A. I don't think they did any. It didn't look like they were doing any studio backlots or anything like that for it.
There was a prison riot
So
scene that they
definitely.
cut that was like too much, made it too intense, and it's like
Yeah.
like for all the violence, like you said, I've been kind of trying to watch through these Quentin Tarantino movies, and this one gave it, like for that not to be so much blood and all of that, man, the intensity and the violence of this, like, was unsettling for sure. So,
Mm-hmm. Um, is there anything that you would change about it?
nah, I got when you're so far removed from something like this, like I don't think you got to be careful about critiquing it because I don't know. I mean, it seemed all very. I think Kane could have been better. I think they could have picked a better actor for
I
Kane. Like,
That's kind of exactly what I wrote down. I said I think my turnoffs are what make the film unique. You know, that lack of hope, the realness, lack of pulled punches. I mean, those are what makes this movie different from the others. I said
they
some of
could
the
have
acting could
plucked
have been
Ronnie's
better.
eyebrows. Yeah, they could have plucked at Ronnie's eyebrows. Come on, like those are the thickest eyebrows in the whole movie. Yeah. Other than that, great. Good time. Kane was it his first movie? I know it was O Dog's
Yeah,
first
so
movie.
it was all of their first movies. So Lorenz Tate's, it was Kane's first movie. It was Jada Pinkett's first movie. Obviously, his first movie for the directors, the writer. So a lot of people in this movie that had never acted before. You obviously Samuel L. has had done some things, but he's barely in the movie. There's some older guys in this, but Mr. Sharif's dad is one of the better ones in this movie, and yeah, so I agree with you. I mean, obviously some of the acting could have been better, but it was a lot of their first films.
Apparently,
So
they kind of had to. Now that you're saying that, I remember that they had to kind of fight for the actor who played Kane. Um, that new line wasn't sold on him throughout, and I think
hmm
all that drooling got to me, man.
that drooling. I do think that Lorenz Tate kind of ended up being the star role out of this. Although looking at his filmography, I don't see uh, a ton of thing. Like I feel like he could have went on and been a really, really big star. Somebody made the comparison that he should have been that era's Lakeith Stanfield. I love me some Lakeith
Well, I
Stanfield,
also
but yeah,
saw
I agree.
something
I
that
think
was
he,
like he had a very Disney face.
okay, yeah.
So
I
I think
mean,
he could have made like a Keenan Thompson type run.
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate that his if you look him up on IMDb, he's wearing a dumbass fedora, so that doesn't do anything. Doesn't do
I'm out.
anything for
I'm
him.
out immediately.
Um, I'm out. Yeah, he's
Now
wearing
I
that
understand.
fedora.
Now
It's a
I understand why he
fedoncha.
didn't get hired for anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
He does play Quincy Jones in the biopic Ray, so um, he is in there. So I don't know. What did you give it? If you had to rate it, what were you going to give it?
Um, it's it's a solid 4 for me, like 4 out of 5 for me. Um, I don't think it it's similar, like right back to what we were talking about with some of the Quentin Tarantino movies, right? It's unsettling and realistic enough that I don't want to watch it again. And so typically if I don't want to watch it again, we're like starting at a 3. Like if I don't want to watch, there's something about a really good movie. If it's above a 3, I want to watch it again. But this one, because I'm so far removed from the situation and the realistic events from it, as hard as it is to watch, it gets like a Django, a Schindler's List extra star of like it was hard enough to watch in a good way. Lands me at a 4 out of 5.
Nice. Yeah. And my rating is trash. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but I think it for the same reason that you gave it. I just couldn't give it that extra star. I think it was good, and it was definitely well done for a person's first movie. I mean, look at El Mariachi, which it was a really good movie that we watched this year, and was Robert Rodriguez's first one. I think this movie kind of blows it out of the water in like how well it was made. This one felt like it had a lot more support and a lot more. It wasn't done on like a shoestring budget, and you can tell.
Mm.
And
Well, and what I
I
would
just think
say
it's
about my
a
rating too is that you could easily talk me down to a 3.5.
mm-hmm.
Impossible talk me up to a 4.5. Like you could I'm being kind because of the subject matter.
Yeah. I just I found myself too comparing it to a movie that it's not. With Boys in the Hood, I keep referencing it, but I just liked Boys in the Hood, a lot more, and it still covers a lot of this ground. I just thought
Much
it
easier
was
to
much
watch.
better executed. I think that probably has something to do with the acting. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that's everything that I've got for Menace to Society. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I don't know if I said that. So we'll see what everything else shakes out. But if there's not anything else you have, Stephen,
No, I mean, I just to again to
easy.
I'm paying attention to this chat here, and I say the only reason I give it that almost like bonus star is because I think a lot of people need to watch it. In like the same way I'd say some people need to watch Schindler's List, just to get insight on something that they're not going to be familiar with. That's the only thing that boosts. I'd say I could agree with a 3.5 very easily, and even be talked down to a 3, just
Mm-hmm.
because the execution, especially compared to Boys in the Hood, I like the realism though. I think I lean a little between the two, between
Yeah.
Joseph and Spencer, because I like the realism. It just could have been. I think maybe if they didn't have New Line on their balls and let them do the full blown like edgy film that they wanted, that it would have been like Schindler's List hard to watch. Because Anthony, there would have been a Korean kid in the
Yeah.
store
Well, that's
from the get go. There would have been Anthony would have been dead at the end. You wouldn't have got the heartfelt. Like there was all these things that I read that New Line kind of came in and told them like that's way too much. So I think had they not had that element, that it would have easily been I don't know. I still think it's a staple movie, um, for something that I haven't seen
yeah.
anywhere else. So
All right, you hear it there. You heard it there. Well, thank you again for joining me for this week's talk. I promise we're gonna get you in here for one that's not as serious.
Oh, that's okay. I like the
Because
serious.
we've definitely got a run of them coming up. We've got a run of non-serious, a lot more fun movies that are on the horizon. Next week's movie, in honor of the 500 million and growing box office for the new Super Mario Brothers movie, we're going to be doing the old Super Mario Brothers movie with John Leguizamo and Bob
Ooh.
Hoskins. It's a treat. I don't know where it is to stream, but if you, there are some ways I think to get around that. Archive.org has
Have you seen the
a
stuff
copy
where
that I plan on watching. Um,
Luigi from the old one? What's his name? Luigi from the old one?
John Leguizamo.
He's been talking shit about the new Super Mario.
So, well, we can
For
talk
real.
about that and more next week.
Cliffhanger.
And so I look forward to talking to each and every one of you next week. Hey, watch yourselves. Because that's actually a movie that we're going to be doing soon, too. It's Cliffhanger. I know you weren't referencing that. But let's all watch Super Mario Brothers. Come back next week and have a much happier time than we did with Menace to Society, more serious movie. So, again, thank you all for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks, everybody.